Hi guys, welcome back to the James Bond Show. I'm your host, Krazy Kajeevie, for another episode of the James Bond Show with no fears, limits, or substitutes. Guys, thank you so much for everyone who's subscribing. Subs have just gone boom, 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 like that, so thank you so much. Now, you can see I'm wearing a t-shirt that I wore the other day. I just wore it kind of inconspicuously because I was about to go out to the shops the other day, but I am wearing this for a reason, and I'll get to that reason a little bit later on. Now, what am I doing today? What is the crazy man doing today? Well, you guys wanted a question and answer session, and as you know, in the comments, I always tell you guys direct the show. Tell me what you want. Do you want question and answer? Do you want reviews of this? Do you want that? And you guys have told me that you wanted pretty much questions answered. So this is a question and answer segment. Now, also, after I do these, I'm going to show you something really special. Some of you have probably seen it and seen it in my collection, but I don't know why. I just felt the urge to show a collector's piece. And it's something that's so beautiful, and I don't show it enough, so I'm going to show it, and it's just sitting to the right of me. So when the urge pushes me, I'm going to show it. Okay, guys, let's get into these questions. And thank you so much to the subscribers that sent them in. God bless your cotton socks. Let's have a look at these. Okay, so this is from, I think you've got kind of two names here as I've looked up. Imperfectly Perfect subscriber name, and I think your real name is Temraj? And I'm pretty sure I did the Bond countdown for you, that you wanted that, and then I did that for you, and you live in India, Delhi. So Temraj, you might have two accounts there, but make sure they're both subscribed to the James Bond Show. Okay, so Imperfectly Perfect, aka Camerage, says, never seen a Bond fan like you. You call me ugly? Jokes. Okay, never seen a Bond fan like you. Please make a video on how James Bond has influenced your life and how you became such a huge fan. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the compliment that I think it is. Okay, so how did James Bond influence... Please make a video. Blah, blah, blah. James Bond has influenced your life. Okay, so how has James Bond influenced my life? Well, I got to admit, I started watching James Bond films when I was really young, and I'll get into how I got into Bond in a moment. But so Connery, to me, watching Connery and especially Dalton, the way they walked, the way they talked. I do have none of you guys have seen me probably walk properly, but when I am in a suit and I'm feeling pretty damn happy with myself, I do have a bit of a catwalk, and that was instilled in me at a young age because I just watched Sean Connery, and he walked like a big sexy cat. He's a sexy mofo, that man. So influenced me in that way, I guess, in the way I walk, talk. Also my humour. James Bond, especially I think the Roger Moore films, definitely influenced my sense of humour, and my past with the ladies. James Bond has definitely influenced me with a whole lot of charm, and I think also dealing with a lot of social justice warrior prats today in this new age. Bond has influenced me. You can have fun and you can be a ladies' man, but when you need to be a man, and you need to stand up for Queen and Country and tell people where to go when they're trouncing on what is sacred to you. And to me, that's a bit of James Bond, isn't it? A bit sacred to me. So how did I become such a huge fan? Okay, I think I have told this story, but I'll tell it really quickly because I've got a whole bunch of questions to get through. Okay, so I was about, I don't know, I think I was about 13 at the time, and it was, The Living Daylights had come out in 87, so it was about 1988, and I was around 13, probably not 13 just yet. But anyway, so my mum worked at a store, and after school I would go in and I would wait for her to drive me home. So I'd go from school, get a bus into where she worked, hang around that town, looked at the shops, you know, had fun. It was better than going home. And for a 2-week period, I picked up this book, and it was the 25th anniversary James Bond book. I think it was the author, I think by memory, Sally Hibbon. I think it was by Sally Hibbon. And it was just, Dalton was on it and had the Bonds down below. And then they brought out, 1989, they brought out an extra edition of it as well. And so I would pick that up and I'd read it, and Mum would come down. I'd go, "Oh, Mum, can you buy me this book? You know, no, put it down. Let's go." Next day, I'm like, "Oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to go home or what?" No, I'm going to go back into Mum's work. I'm going to read that book. And it was like there was a bargain bin of them. There was a whole bunch of them there. And I went back in and I picked it up and I'm reading it. This went on for 2 weeks. And I got obsessed reading this book. And I'm in there reading all these films. And of course, I'm reading about Dr. No. Then I'm reading about From Russia with Love. Then I had to go back and find out about this movie, Goldfinger. And I kept going. And I knew, unfortunately, I knew about the ending of On Her Majesty's Secret Service and these films before I even got to see the films. But so one day, Mum says to me, and she's dropping me off at school, "Don't come into my work after school, just go home." So I was bummed out. I wanted to go back into work to read this book. So Mum comes home and she's got something in a bag and she walks up to me, and I'm actually outside playing with my brother. I remember it like it was yesterday. And she hands this to me and she goes, "Here's a present for you." And I open it up and there is the James Bond book I've been going into my mum's work to read for 2 weeks. And she looked at me and this is what she said: "Good, now stop coming into my work." And that was it. That's how it started. And I read that book cover to cover. Then I went and did I was in year 7 or 8 or whatever it was, and I did a talk on James Bond, and the rest is history. Then I started from me and my twin brother. We would get on a bus. We'd walk from our house up to town. We'd get on a bus. We'd go to the next town. We'd get off the bus. We'd walk to this video store. We'd hire as many James Bond movies as we could. Get back on the bus. Get dropped off at town. Walk all the way from town back to home. Watch these movies. And that just went on for weeks and weeks and months, of course, until you could really buy these films on VHS. And that started my obsession with James Bond. So I was reading that book, then watching the films, and then I got into Ian Fleming novels and was reading them and just, yeah, became obsessed. Probably within a 2, 3, 4 year period, I literally was a walking encyclopedia of James Bond knowledge. And then I read Stephen J. Rubin's book. Which one was that? I get confused between that and Raymond Benson's one. I'm not talking about novels. I'm talking about there's the Encyclopedia of James Bond. So I'm going to have to dig those out and have a look. But I remember Stephen Rubin's book, which was a compendium, and Raymond Benson did a big compendium one, and I used to just read those. And yeah, okay, I hope that answers your question, and sorry about the rambling. Next question, Steve Albin. Hello, Steve Albin. What would you have done with the Bond series after the release of Casino Royale? Wow, that is a video question. That deserves its entire own video. But to answer that, I'm going to try and answer that within 30, 60 seconds. I'm not 100% sure right then if they actually had the rights at the time for Spectre. I know they did, obviously, for Casino Royale, but I'm not sure if they got them for Spectre. So I want to go back and have a look at that. But if they had the rights for Spectre at the time, which I don't think they got until a little bit later, I would have planned things better. But I would have made Mr. White basically their version, the Eon version of Blofeld. You know, I thought they just set him up so well, and then they brought him back in Quantum of Solace, and you could see this, you know, like, it was all about him. We forget about Green, even though I actually like Green. I think he's a very underrated villain. It was like, Mr. White, who's this dude, you know? And he comes in at the end of Casino Royale and he shoots Lashifa. This guy's powerful. This guy's a badass. And then Quantum, they rarely use him. And Skyfall, he's gone. And then they bring him in as Spectre, and he's dying, and he's now Madeline's father, and he's done. He kills himself. So I definitely would have made him... Now, if they didn't have the rights to Blofeld at the time, I would have kept him as like their Blofeld. Now, once they got the rights to Spectre and to go the whole Blofeld route, I would have made him Blofeld. Now, I know he's not the big, burly, crazy bastard of the novels, but he was psychotic, and you can see in his eyes he looks psychotic, way more so than what Christopher Waltz's look, though. I think Christopher Waltz is going to step up his game, and one of the things I'm looking forward to in No Time to Die is to see what happens with his Blofeld, and if he steps it up, and if they give him enough to play with in that script. So I hope I've answered your question there, but I would not have done the weights as well. I think the weights are terrible, and I would not have shoved Skyfall in there. I would have kept the quantum kind of story going and definitely pushed it down. Mr. White, that's what I would have done with that. Okay, so I'm not sure how to say your sub name here, but Easus Ease? Easus Ease? I'm going to go with Easus Ease. Sounds like Easy E from NWA. Okay, what are your thoughts on Barry Nelson as Jimmy Bond in the 1954 TV adaptation of Casino Royale? And number 2 question he asked, should Eon adapt the Bond novels, I'm going to start again with that one. Should Eon adapt the non-Fleming novels into film? Okay, so I'll answer the first one. Very easy question. I've never ever seen the 1954 Casino Royale with Barry Nelson as Jimmy Bond. I've never watched it because when I was growing up and younger, it wasn't available on video. Now, it probably is available. I could probably go onto YouTube and watch it, and I know that some people have got it on DVD, and I'm sure I could get it very easily. I've personally never had the desire to watch that, and I have never watched the 1967 Casino Royale spoof one, primarily because to me, growing up with the Bond novels from a young age and being obsessed with those novels and loving them, I kind of felt like in a way, even though obviously Fleming had agreed to everything that was going on with Casino Royale at the time, he didn't like that one adaptation at all, and to me it was a bit of a mockery of his Bond. So no, never watched it. I probably will one day, but to me that's just not James Bond. An American with that voice isn't Bond. When I was reading the Fleming novels, to me I could always hear and see, white British Bond. So hope that answers your question. As far as the non-Ian Fleming Bond books, I've never read them either, and I know some people are like, what? I will. I'm actually really going to get around to it, and I'm going to get around to it this year. I am going to read them all from John Gardner, Raymond Benson's. I will read them all. I think some of the titles, like Trigger Mortis, sorry, but to me that is just crap. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is that a Horowitz one or something? I think that is. So no, I haven't been into anything non-Fleming because to me, Fleming is Bond, and that's why I'm so hardcore about it and say that, Elba can't be Bond and Michael B. Jordan can't be Bond because that's not what Ian Fleming created. He created a white British Secret Service agent. And someone said to me, smart ass, but what about George Lazenby, an Australian? Well, he's white and he can look like a white British guy. His heritage from all his family is from Britain. So it flies. Now, am I completely against an American ever playing James Bond? No, I'm not, because they're still white and they're an actor and they can play a white British agent. But my preference is for a British actor, either from Scotland, England, Ireland, from that area, right, from basically the United Kingdom, to play Bond, because I think when you look at it too, holistically, when they're off doing interviews and everything for Bond, they're representing Britain. They're representing England, and it's just more charming, I think, for American audiences, Chinese audiences, even Aussie audiences, to hear and see a British actor talking about Bond than it would be an American actor, because it's something even these actors really grow up with, because Bond is so ingrained in British society. So there you go. I hope I answered those 2 questions well enough. Okay, Red Reviews. Hello, Red Reviews. Which James Bond do you wish had one more adventure added to their lineup? Also, do you play any of the James Bond video games? Okay, so to answer your first question here, look, Timothy Dalton is my favourite. I'm going to kind of sit on the fence slightly on this, and obviously I'm not known for sitting on the fence, but Dalton is my favourite Bond. So yes, selfishly, if I was answering this selfishly, I would say Timothy Dalton. But as a Bond purist and fan, and someone that I absolutely love on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Now, even though I had it on my top film, I had it back a bit further than I've ever had, because it's always been in my top 3 on Her Majesty's. It used to be my all-time favourite. The last list I did was favourite films to sit down and watch, you know, for fun. As far as the best film, On Her Majesty's still in my top 3 is a best James Bond film. We needed, the fans needed a sequel to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So for me, it's George Lazenby to have not been a knobhead and to do another James Bond film. He should have done Diamonds Are Forever. But the sad thing here is, Dalton wanted to do another Bond film, and he went through all that legal crap. And the actual truth of why Dalton left, he didn't feel he was too old, and it wasn't the boot for Goldeneye. What actually happened is Cubby Broccoli and Dalton had a phone conversation, and Cubby wanted Dalton, after a 5-year hiatus, because I hadn't quite got to the 6 years yet, so it was 4.5, 5 years. He wanted Dalton, they were back on track, but he wanted Dalton to commit to like a 4 or 5 year picture deal. And Dalton thought that was nuts and thought, no, I'm going to be ancient by the time I get to that. So that's the truth of that. And that is why Dalton left. And I think Cubby did a disservice to Tim. I really think he did the wrong thing there. I can understand why Cubby wanted him on board for a long term, because there was, you know, eventually it was going to be a 6-year gap by the time they got the film out. And then, you know, you couldn't just have this guy come back for one film. I get that. But I think he should have said, Tim, sign for 2. Let's get this film out. Let's get one more out after. It'll be out within 2 years after, and go from there. And I think that's what Cubby should have done. And we would have got Dalton in Goldeneye. And Dalton loved Cubby as well. He was actually a pallbearer at Cubby's funeral, if you didn't know that. There's a little tidbit for you. Okay, so hope that answers your question. And the second part of your question, yes, I've played lots of James Bond games. I'm just going to check which ones you said here. I don't think you named one. So the games, I actually wrote this down. So the James Bond games I played obviously back in the Nintendo 64. Oh my goodness, like everyone out there, thousands on GoldenEye. I played the GoldenEye Reloaded game. I actually have that. Everything or Nothing, I did play that years ago. I think I had it on Xbox. Loved it. Great game. Really, really good game. I've got Bloodstone. I love Bloodstone. I think it's a cool game. I know I've got 007 Legends, and currently I'm stuck in the last thing in Moonraker. I've gone into YouTube, watch how you get through the level, and I just need a bit more time and be more fresh to do that, to finish off 007 Legends. Because when I looked in YouTube how much more there was to go, I'm like, oh my goodness. Alright guys, let's keep going. So Matt Searson. Steve McQueen is my... Hi Matt Searson. Steve McQueen is my favourite actor. How much of his style do you think has inspired Daniel in his films? Okay, on that, I don't think it's so much that Daniel Craig would be inspired so much by Steve McQueen's look. I think it's more that they've seen he's got a bit of a Steve McQueen about him. And I think, like, especially in Casino Royale, when we all know in Casino Royale, when I first ever saw it, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's Steve McQueen. When he's in the truck and the tanker truck, whatever, is racing for the big aeroplane, and he's braking it like that and turning the truck, and the camera goes into his face, boom, it's Steve McQueen looking at you. So people made comparisons to that. Then when he was on the motorbike in Quantum of Solace, people made more comparisons, and now with No Time to Die, you've got the IMAX poster, he's on the bike, and again, it's like Steve McQueen from The Great Escape. I know Daniel Craig was asked personally about that. It's on YouTube, and he laughed at the idea and thought it was ridiculous, and he gets in shy embarrassed and doesn't really talk about it. So to me, I think it's more the costume designers and those sort of people giving him a bit of that look and edge to it, and maybe he realizes it and he plays up to it, but I don't think so much he's specifically trying to go out and look like Steve McQueen. And to be honest, I can't really answer that for Daniel Craig, but what I have heard is he kind of balked at the idea and thought it was silly. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, Bob Marotti. Bob, he is a member, guys. If you haven't come and joined us at James Bond Real Fans on Facebook, please do. Bob is one of our lovely members there. And Bob, you are awesome. So Bob's question is, what is your second favourite movie series? This is why I'm wearing this. Now, I've got to answer this honestly, and I'm going to tell you all honestly, and a few of you, if you don't know this, might be shocked. My all-time favourite film is not a Bond film. Shock horror. My all-time favourite film is Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Guys, I'm going to show you the big thing I was going to show you next video because it's too special to rush now. Till next time, keep on bonding. Say hi to your mum for me.
Typical men. They always promise they're gonna do, and they never do.